My name is Carolyn Wellman. I am 44 years old. I am a marketing consultant and I live in Oshawa, Ontario. I am wanting to show you some of the things that I either won while I was on a free trip or purchased while I was on a free trip. However, I'm in the process of moving and most of it is packed. However, I do have some amazing key things to show you. The first one that I love, that I wear almost half the winter, is the ski jacket that I won when we went to the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver. And the contest we won it from was sponsored by Wonder Bread. So I have this awesome ski jacket that is warm, has a ton of accessories, has the Wonder logo, and keeps me toasty all winter long. I love this jacket. The other thing that I bought while I was on vacation on a trip that I won in 2004, we had won a trip to LA to have dinner at Bob Bloomer's house. And I went to my favorite store that I had read about online only and had yet to shop there. So I went to Anthropologie for the very first time in Santa Monica and bought this amazing skirt. And it's such a classic design that it never goes out of style. So I've been wearing it for 6 years and it still looks brand new. What's really cool is 2 years ago, Anthropologie came to Canada and Elle magazine was having a contest on best fashion finds. So I took a picture of this skirt and submitted it touting how happy I was that Anthropologie was opening the next day in Canada. I won the $100 gift prize, and so I thoughtfully bought this skirt, a beautiful pair of sandals to accessorize it with. So not only did I buy the skirt on a trip I had won, I won another prize with the actual skirt that I bought. And I think that's a bit of fun. As for photographs, I did email you digital copies of all the pictures I had packed, so you will have access to those by email.
Okay, how would you describe your personality? How would your friends and toughest critics describe you?
Well, I describe myself as animated, which I think is a pretty accurate statement. My friends would describe me as fun and bubbly and full of enthusiasm. I am generally the one in my office that pumps up all the employees. I have been dubbed the EVP of fun and have been known to head up the company picnic and any of the other corporate initiatives that we're doing. And so what happens in my personal life also spills over into my corporate life. My toughest critics, they don't like that I am promoting how to have fun and teach others to win because they feel that they're going to win less. But I say that's a misnomer because in the United States, companies last year spent $3 billion running promotions, and there's enough for everybody. Because I know I sure didn't win $3 billion in prizes on my own. So there's enough prizes for everybody. This is a really great hobby, and I think it's a fantastic way to garner free holidays.
So tell us any interesting details, i.e. wacky jobs, hobbies, interests, talents, awards, etc. about yourself or anything that makes you stand out.
Well, many people consider the hobby of sweepstaking to be a bit wacky because it does take a bit of persistence to sit every day at a computer for an hour or two and click away with the hopes of winning something. And when we attend the conventions, there's a lot of fun, energetic, enthusiastic, and positive people that attend. So I say that the hobby attracts the good crazies, which if you ever sat in a room full of us, you would probably agree with. And as for awards, my being a promotional consultant and helping others, teaching others how to win, has garnered me one of Canada's top 40 women over 40. I've been put on the cover of Marketing Magazine, and I did win third prize in a chili cook-off.
So you talk a bit about the hobby attracting the good crazies. What's something that we wouldn't know about you just by looking at you?
That I'm just like everybody else. I have a lot of varied interests. I love to cook and bake. I love to read. I love movies. I enjoy yoga. And I think that's it. Everyone has a diverse set of interests, and I'm no different than anybody else.
Okay, tell us about your free travel experience and winning trips. How long you've been doing it, how and why you got started into winning trips.
Well, the benefit of having the sweepstakes as a hobby is that trips is one of the most popular prizes that's given away. So I like to enter for everything. Anything that I think me, my families, or my friends would enjoy, I enter for. So everything from CDs and t-shirts to concert tickets to gift cards to right through to cars and trips and electronics, big screen TVs, iPods, iPads, computers, etc., etc., etc. Now, I label trips to be a biggie prize because they're generally over $1,000 in value and up from there. And so people tend to win many, many, many small prizes in between the biggies. And so we have won a total of 15 trips in 10 years. So that averages out to a trip and a half a year. And so, it does cover your vacation time, but it doesn't take over the entire hobby. We've been doing it for 10 years. So I started August 2001, and I spend about an hour or two a day entering. And some days it's 10 minutes, and some days I get 4 hours, but it averages out to about an hour to 2 hours a day. 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
And so how do you rate your skill level when it comes to winning trips and prizes? And why?
Winning, I would label myself an expert because I win 5 to 15 prizes every month after month, and have done since 2004. Now I know that because in 2004 I started keeping a spreadsheet to track my wins. And so I know exactly how much I won every year and how many prizes I won in any given year. And I consistently win 100 plus prizes every year, whether they be a $1.59 bottle of soda right up to a $40,000 trip.
So explain briefly your strategy for winning so many prizes.
Now, it's interesting because this question about what my strategy is for winning is a bit of a tough one for me to answer because I wrote a book called You Can't Win If You Don't Enter to teach everyone my strategy. The book is 230 pages long. The chapter on my internet contesting system, which is the key to my winning so much, is over 30 pages long in itself. And when I teach my strategy in my full day seminar, How to Win Cash, Cards, Trips, and More, it takes 3 of the 8 hours that I am up standing teaching. But what I will give are my top tips just to get people started. My number 1 tip is always read the rules, because if you enter and break any of the rules, even if your name is picked, you will not win. So there's no point in wasting your energy trying if you're not following the rules. The second tip I have is to go to sites that host legitimate sweepstakes. And there's 3 kinds. You can find blogs that list sweepstakes, you can find sweepstakes aggregators, and you can find giveaway sites. And those are great places to start. And my third tip is enter, 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 because it's a numbers game. The more you enter, the more you can win. I had a magazine article, Yahoo Finance, actually did the math to figure out what I was winning. And they took how many sweepstakes I enter on a daily basis versus the amount of time I put in, and what my dollar value was for winning. And they calculated it out. I earned about $20 an hour sweeping, and I win less than 1% of what I enter. So if I'm winning 5 to 15 prizes every month, you can bet I'm entering a heck of a lot.
So how long have you been at the entering sweepstakes game? And how much time are you spending per day doing this, and how are you working it into your daily life, that entering is kind of an everyday thing for you?
Well, for me, I have been entering for 10 years. I started in August 2001, and I remember that specifically because I read an article in Reader's Digest about a couple who entered sweepstakes as a hobby and how it enhanced their lifestyles. And that's how I got started. It was very exciting. So how I incorporate it into my everyday life has actually gotten harder because currently I'm working a full-time job and a part-time job. So the little time that I can squeeze in right now, I do first thing in the morning. I get up at 5:30 a.m. I turn on my computer, I get ready for the day, I contest for about half an hour if I can squeeze it in, and get ready for work and get my daughter ready for school, and off we go. Throughout the day, I actually want a smartphone, and so throughout the day I will check Facebook and Twitter, and sometimes I can catch a sweepstakes there. So last week I won a book on Twitter, and that's how I squeeze it in there. That's a great little tip for people. And then if I get a chance, I try and do another half an hour at the end of the day after my daughter's gone to sleep. But sometimes I don't get a chance to do that. I'm actually really missing my full 2 hours a day.
So maybe you can run through kind of a quick list of some of the free and discounted trips or activities that you've won and the dates that you've traveled and how you won those trips.
Well, I had to print this list out because there's 15 of them, and I'd never remember and get them in order if I didn't write it all down. So the first trip we ever won was in 1991, and that was a trip I won with my mother. We had gone to lunch at a restaurant, and they were doing a co-branded promotion with a travel agency in the mall. And so we got 2 entry forms, and I said to my mom, "Oh, if you win, I'll take you. If you win, you'll take me." And she said, yeah. Well, she won. So I went to Barbados. And I consider it my win because I did the entering. So even if I don't go on the trip or participate in the prize in any manner, I still consider it my win because I did the entering. Now in 2002, this is fun. My husband's name was selected to win a trip to Florida. And this is kind of slightly at the height of my craziness and entering like 3-4 hours a day. And at this point, it was so early in the morning. I was breastfeeding my daughter. I was on the computer and I was listening to the radio in the background, waiting for the cue to call in. So I call in, I'm caller 1. And I think, well, that's kind of crazy. That's so early. So I hang up, I call again. He goes, "You're caller 2. I think, what? I hang up, I call again. He goes, "You're caller 3. I was all 6 callers. Well, it was a radio station formatted for men. So I gave my husband's name, and on Monday morning, we got a call that he was picked for the trip to Florida. So we went down for a 3-day weekend in 2002, and he got to be a judge in the Miss Hawaiian Tropics Bikini Contest. So I became the world's best wife at that moment, and he really began to help me in this hobby after that. And now he helps me find the sweeps and occasionally enters them. It's also another little tip and strategy I can share at another time. In 2004, we won a trip for 4 days in LA, and we had dinner at the Surreal Gourmet's house. His name is Bob Bloomer. He wrote some amazing cookbooks. Now, what's really interesting about Bob is that when we went down there, we were talking about this hobby of contesting. And this is before I wrote my book, and he actually inspired me to write my book based on some of the conversation that we had. But what was really neat is afterwards, he had a new show on television, and he would go around the country and enter contests like pie baking contests and potato peeling contests and pancake contests. And I think I influenced him in that way. And in 2008, he got in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most pancakes made in an hour. So I think he had a huge effect on my life, and I had a huge effect on his life. So that's a really interesting little tidbit from what can happen from a single trip. When we got back from that trip, on the Monday morning, my husband got a call. We went a 2-week tour of Europe. That was one of those crazy Kon-Tiki tours where it's 9 countries, 14 days. Very reminiscent of It's Tuesday. It must be Belgium. Wow, what a vacation. And then we won it took another year. We didn't win a trip in 2005. In 2006, I won a trip for my sister to Greece. So she took a friend of hers, and they had an absolute ball. And then we won 2 days in London, and we went to the set of Harry Potter. That was amazing, because what's really cool is there's 2 kinds of vacations you can win. You can win your standard all-inclusive, trip to the Caribbean, lie on the beach, do whatever you're doing. The other kind of trip you can win is what I call an experience trip. Something that money can't buy or would never be in your budget. because it's so big. So this was an experience trip. We were the first people outside cast and crew. It was run in 30 countries around the world. There was 150 people in attendance. We had a feast on the great set because it's so big. So this was an experience trip. We were the first people outside cast and crew. It was run in 30 countries around the world. There was 150 people in attendance. We had a feast on the great set. It was absolutely surreal. It was amazing. Who goes to London for 3 days? It was so cool. In 2006, we won a trip to Whistler. That one was kind of fun because they were giving away a trip a day, and you had to either answer a trivia question or participate in some activity. So the day that I won, you had to take a picture of yourself in the luge position, and my husband had gone bowling that night. My daughter was 3 at the time. Well, thank goodness kids are amazing with technology. I handed her the camera and I said, take a picture of mommy. Well, she did. I entered it. We won. So we had an amazing time. We were in Whistler for the closing ceremonies of when the torch went from Torino, Italy to Whistler, BC. And then a year later on our cell phone, see, there's all kinds of ways to enter. There's 5 ways to enter. I can talk about that another time. On our cell phone, we won a 3-day trip to Banff for the Coors Light Peak Party. Wow, that was fun. Then we won a 2-day trip to Montreal. We saw Sam Roberts, the band. Oh, fantastic. And then in 2008, I won a 1-week trip to London to see Duffy in concert. What was really cool is I actually won a 4-day trip, and then they called me and said, oh, the service provider doesn't offer a 4-day trip. They only offer a 1-week trip, so we're sending you for a week. So you never know what'll happen. And also, I'll give you a little tip here. On a few of these trips, we extended the stay. And so we just asked to stay longer and paid for the hotel or stayed with relatives at the end. So we actually got a longer vacation than what we actually won. Then my husband won now this was interesting. You never know how you could win. I entered this contest because I wanted to win a new BlackBerry. And I started entering every day. For 6 weeks I entered. I didn't win a BlackBerry. And then I found out it's a competitive service provider. And my phone would never work if I won it, so I gave up. And this contest ran for 6 months. There was a total of 163 unique entrants, over 16 million entries, and my husband's name was picked. And he and 5 buddies got to fly to Kelowna, BC for the weekend. And the whole thing was paid for. It was amazing. They went skiing. Now this is very typical of me. I say I will go anywhere because it's always fun. You never know what you're going to do. We won a trip to see the Memorial Cup in 2009, and it was being held that year in Rimouski, Quebec. Now you must be saying to yourself, where is Rimouski? It is 3 hours north of Quebec City on the south side of the St. Lawrence River. And I have been there, and actually we had a really fun weekend. So, you know, just take it where the wind goes, and you never know what you're going to have fun. Now, the biggest trip we won was in 2009 because it was for the February 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver. It was a 4-day, 3-night trip for 4, valued at $40,000. And so that was really amazing. And the last trip we won, now we've had a bit of a slump. The last one we won was in 2010, and it was a 1-week trip to Scotland, to St. Andrews to see the British Open. And it just happened to be the same weekend as my brother's wedding, so my husband took a buddy with him because there's no prize big enough for me to miss my brother's wedding because I could not listen to my mother for the next 40 years complaining that I missed my brother's wedding. So I just let that one go and let the guys go have a good time, and I baked all the cupcakes, and we had an amazing wedding. So it was a good weekend for both of us. So that's what we've won to date. I may win something in the next 10 minutes, so you just never know what the next trip or freacation will be.
So, with the vacations that you've received and won, would you say that, you know, they would have been out of reach if you hadn't won them?
Well, some of the trips, you know, I could have probably worked on a budget and come up with them. Say, for example, to go see Sam Roberts in Montreal, I could have, you know, come up with the money for the weekend. It's only a 6-hour drive from Toronto.
Hockey and
you know,
whiskey.
Yeah, stay with some relatives that we have there. So I could have afforded that one. The trip to the Olympics, there's no way. Even on a shoestring budget to the Olympics, there's no way we could have afforded to go to Vancouver. So I'd say it's probably an even split between the really amazing trips that we won, the experience trips, and the ones that are our budget, and ones that if we really worked on our budget, we could have afforded it.
So has this helped you discover places you wouldn't normally have traveled to?
Yeah, I like the question. It did help me discover places I normally wouldn't have traveled to. Yes, Rimouski, Quebec is definitely one of them. And actually, the other thing that was really good is a couple of dream places. I'd always wanted to go to Paris, always wanted to go to Venice. When we did the 9-day, 2-week tour of Europe, it really gave us a taste of each country. And now I know there's some places I would definitely go back to, and some I wouldn't travel to because I found them a bit expensive, like Lucerne, Switzerland. I don't know if I'd travel back to Switzerland. I found it a little expensive and not really one of my favorite places. And so I know where I would like to go back to and what cities I'd like to explore more. And so definitely when I see sweepstakes for those places, I make sure I get all my entries in so I can go back.
What about New Mexico?
Oh, I was just reminded about our New Mexico trip. Now, I actually didn't put it on the list because we didn't really win most of it. What happened was I entered a sweepstake and we won hotel stay. 2 nights in Santa Fe, New Mexico, 2 nights in Taos. And I thought, when I won it, I thought, why would I, I thought I always read the rules. Why would I enter a sweepstake that didn't have airfare and car rental? So I was going to turn it down, and I went and looked at the hotels online, and they were amazing. I thought, because the hotel stays alone were $500 a night each. So these resorts were really top-notch. So thankfully we had enough air miles, and I used the air miles that we had for our airfare, and then it was 5 days car rental, and I used 3 days travel voucher to use that. So we only ended up paying for gas, food, and 2 days car rental. So it actually made the trip affordable, and we had so much fun. And I never would have gone to that part of the country. It's not a place I would think to travel to, and I would actually love to go back to New Mexico. It was amazing. It's actually one of the top places I recommend to people. There were some things there that were just stunning. It's just, wow, what a great part of the country.
So out of the trips that you have won so far, would you consider any of them to have been a trip of a lifetime?
If I had to pick a trip of a lifetime, I would have to say the Harry Potter trip. Now, I have been to London 3 times. I love London. And I probably now know the city like the back of my hand, and I would happily go back in a minute. But what made it the trip of a lifetime is now, since they have stopped filming all the movies, they are opening up the set to the public. But we saw it 6 years ago when it wasn't open to the public, and they were only on film 4. So that was a real treat to go to do something that I could never have done ever without some kind of prize.
So what's the craziest or funniest thing that you've had to do to win a prize?
Now, I haven't had to do anything insane to win a trip. But, as again I stated earlier, my number 1 tip is to always read the rules. And this time I skimmed the rules. So what happened is I got a call from the local paper, and they said I won silver grandstand passes to the local race on the weekend. It's the big Indy race that's held in Toronto every year. I was really excited because my husband loves car racing, and I was going to give him the passes. And then she said to me, and on Saturday, to win the grand prize, you have to come down and sumo off. Well, they gave prizes to 4 people, and we were all to come down. It was a joint promotion with the Fight Network, and we had to get in this ring and wrestle each other. Well, 2 of the 4 didn't show up, and I thought, wow, that was smart. I should have just done that. But no, it's a hot July day. It's about 1,000 degrees. We're in the middle. It's the center of the track. It's all asphalt. It's hotter. And we had to get in this ring and wrestle each other. Well, 2 of the 4 didn't show up. And I thought, wow, that was smart. I should have just done that. But no, it's a hot July day. It's about 1,000 degrees. We're in the middle. It's the center of the track. It's all asphalt. It's hotter than all get out. We have to crawl into these sticky, sweaty sumo suits. It was so big on me that it came to the tips of my fingers and was scraping my feet. I had to put a baseball cap and a t-shirt on my head to get the helmet to fit. I had to take my glasses off, and I can't see a foot in front of me without them. And I basically got launched by this guy, who had also, by the way, sumo wrestled before. I didn't stand a chance. But at least I got Bret Hart's autograph, and I sent the photograph to a friend of the family who is crazy about wrestling. So it was worth it. And I also have a great story. It won me second place at a Toastmasters humor contest.
So, what's the most expensive trip that you've won, and how much did it save you?
Well, we talked about the most expensive trip we'd won, and it was the $40,000 trip to the Olympics. And it actually didn't save us any money, because I don't think we ever would have gone to the Olympics it wasn't a trip that we were looking to do and trying to figure out a way to afford it. It just was completely out of our budget, wasn't even on our radar, and we got to go have the experience of a lifetime. So that was really lucky. Now, I do think this is a good time to give one of my other tips, which is when you're winning sweepstakes trips, it's a cheap trip, not a free trip. Because there's two things that you need to know. One, any prize over $600 in the United States gets a miscellaneous form 1099, and you have to pay income tax on the trip. And the percentage is based on your income. So, someone that's earning $20,000 a year versus $90,000 a year, there's going to be different income brackets, different percentages paid. And not everything's always included. So, for example, when we went to London to see Duffy, we had hotel, airfare, and tickets to see Duffy. But it was all our food we had to pay for ourselves, all our sightseeing, and, of course, it was the second week of December. I was doing all my Christmas shopping on Oxford Street. So I probably spent a little more than I normally would have on a trip to London. So you have to take all that into consideration. Now, what's really neat, here's another great tip, is that when I win all these other prizes, so for example, recently I won quite a bit of makeup. Now, actually, I happen to need new makeup. So what it did was it saved me buying makeup, and the money that I would have spent on the makeup, I could have taken and put in a travel jar and saved it for the trip. So you can just reallocate funds based on prizes.
And what was the value of the most expensive trip?
Oh, the value of the most expensive trip was $40,000.
So give us some of your basic tips on how to travel for free or discounted.
Well, I just enter sweepstakes. It's really basic. So enter is number 3. Now, this was a really great tip. Every year, there's actually a national sweepstakes convention, and we hear different speakers talk on different topics. And one of the speakers gave this fantastic tip, and I started doing it, and it works really well. Every time you go to a hotel, use your sign up for their free rewards membership loyalty, because you can get points, and it could lead to free hotel stays and various other services for either discounted or free. The other thing is, every time I win a trip, I make sure that the airline that they're sending me on, I can use my loyalty card. So now I'm, say, flying to London and collecting all the air miles, and so eventually I can have enough air miles to go on another free trip.
One more.
I don't have one more.
What does what is your travel mantra?
Well, I don't actually have a travel mantra, but I have a sweepstakes mantra.
Okay, what's your sweepstakes mantra?
And my sweepstakes mantra is, I'm lucky, I'm a winner, I'm a grand prize magnet. That was a lot of fun, because I actually used that mantra at a sweepstakes convention, and I had all 600 people chanting it. It was really exciting.
So how adventurous are you? Like, how open are you to getting free travel?
I'm very open to getting free travel, because I'll go anywhere for free. Now, I have my bucket list places. Like, the number 1 place on my bucket list is Turtle Island, Fiji. And so if I could get there for free, that would be awesome. I'd also like to go back to Sydney, Australia, because I went and lived there for a year when I was 25. So I'm very open to figuring out how to get there for nothing, because the airfare is very expensive. But I am open to anything new and exciting.
So why should we pick you to be on this series?
You should pick me to be on the series because I'm very good at teaching other people how to win. I currently to date have testimonials to show that I have helped others win over $1 million in prizes. I'm going to bet it's at least minimum 10 times that, because obviously I didn't get testimonials from everybody. And I am just excited at the opportunity and the possibility of helping so many more people become winners with this series.